Hello and welcome. Today we will be making Garfiel Tinsel in D&D 5th edition. Garfiel is a lovable, rambunctious, and kind-hearted young man that holds the title of the Shield of the Sanctuary and the Gorgeous Tiger. To begin, his stats are something we could easily form from his characterization in the show. We're going to be using a point-buy system, so if you aren't, just prioritize the stats that are the highest. For his strength, we'll be taking a 15. Same for his constitution, also being a 15. Strength and Constitution are obviously going to be his strong suits, exemplified by his battles against Elsa and Kurgan. And we'll also be giving Dexterity a 14 for similar reasons. Unfortunately, these other stats are going to be quite lower. While I wouldn't say he's stupid or less than average, his time shutting himself in the sanctuary for the fear of the outside world hindered a lot of his other stats, corroborated especially by the fact that he's quite young. His charisma is definitely one of his weakest attributes, especially due to his impulsive nature, and while he is well versed in history, his knowledge otherwise isn't that grand. And lastly, due to his young age and the way he acts, I'd also have to give him a lower wisdom score too. Moving forward, we're going to be messing with something iffy. Of course, if your DM is willing, you could decide to roleplay as a quarter tabaxi, as a half tabaxi wouldn't really fit. Of course, as we all should know at this point, the reason Garfield was able to leave the sanctuary at the time was because his father was a half demi-human and his mother was a full human. This of course would lead him to being a quarter demi-human. For the sake of the game, I'm going to decide to play Garfield as a variant human, and I'll tie in his transformation traits later, but for the sake of the build, it'll be that. For his feat granted by variant human, we'll be taking the Fighting Initiate feat, to gain the fighting style for unarmed combat, for obvious reasons. It gives you an unarmed strike that deals 1d8 plus your strength modifier, and also at the start of each turn, if you're grappling a creature, you could deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage. For his proficiency, we'll be taking history because of all the references he calls to from his times reading. And lastly for this section, we'll be taking a stat increase into strength and constitution, to give them a nice total of 16 each. For level 1, we're going to be starting off with Monk. This won't be the main class of the build, but I really wanted to capture Garfield's unarmed combat style, while also having it be viable. Garfield wouldn't use an axe or a sword, now would he? For his skill proficiencies, we're going to be taking acrobatics and athletics for obvious reasons. And as a level 1 monk, he gains unarmored defense, which is 10 plus his dexterity and wisdom modifier. I'm going to clarify that his AC is kind of ass cheeks to start, but we're going to be getting something better in just a second. It's kind of obvious why we would want Garfield to go for unarmored defense. He also gets martial arts, which ties in perfectly with his unarmed fighting style. This ability gives him an unarmed strike, but it's 1d4 rather than 1d8, so we wanted to take the fighting style anyway. This will also allow him to make a unarmed strike as a bonus action, giving us a clean 2d8 plus 6 as a total. Now for the next 3 levels, we're going to be leaning heavily into Barbarian to capture the essence of Garfield's boundless fury against his opponents. Obviously you get your Rage as a bonus action, which gives you advantage on strength checks and saving throws, an additional 2 damage to each roll, and resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. We also get a better unarmored defense equation of 10 plus your dex modifier and your constitution modifier, giving us a modest but better 15. For Barbarian level 2, we get Danger Sense, displaying Garf's keen observation in battle, which allowed him to gain the upper hand against Kurgan, granting an advantage on dexterity saving throws against things you could see. Barbarian level 3 is where the real fun kicks in, as we'll be able to finally choose a primal path for Garf. And what other option would we choose than the Path of the Beast? Whenever you rage, you can manifest one simple natural weapon in the form of either a bite, claws, or a tail. For nearly all of your rages, you're going to be wanting to using the claws, as it deals 1d6, and you're able to make one additional claw attack in the same action, plus your strength modifier and rage damage for each attack of course. I'm not going to be going over the bite or the tail because although they're decent, the claws outrank them far in terms of usefulness. For the next level, we're going to be taking one last dip into Monk for some fitting combat abilities for Garf. We're going to be taking the optional dedicated weapon feature for Monk, which allows you to dedicate a simple, non-heavy weapon as your Monk weapon. And of course, we're going to be using that opportunity to apply it to our claws. Now, following the attacks with your claws, you'll be able to make a bonus action if it's available to use another unarmed strike. But for even more attacks, we gain access to key points, which allows us to use Flurry of Blows, expending 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action, Patient Defense, which allows us to take the dodge action on our bonus action, and Step of the Wind to disengage or take the dash action as a bonus action. And finally, for the final portion of Monk level 2, we gain unarmored movement, which at this level gives you 10 feet of extra movement while not wearing armor. Now at this point, Garfield is able to make a full combo between the use of his claws and his fists, which reflects his fighting style within the anime. Moving on to Barbarian level 4, we grab another feat, this one being Sentinel. I think this one plays well with this character because you get to use your reaction to retaliate against an enemy if one of your allies is struck. For the stat increase, we're going to be choosing Strength over Dex, but that part is really up to you. There are other options you could choose, such as Durable or Tough later on to reflect Garfiel's divine protection of Earth Spirits, which allows him to have enhanced physical capabilities, as well as accelerated healing while his feet are on the ground. With Barbarian level 5, we get an extra attack, allowing you to attack with your claws 3 times, in addition to the unarmed strikes, depending on whether you use a key point with your bonus action. You also get an additional 10 feet of movement from fast movement. From now on, I'd pretty much build Garf as a barbarian, getting things like Feral Instinct and Relentless Rage that further reflect upon his character. If you have any tweaks or suggestions for this build, I recommend you leave them in the comments. But overall, I feel like I did a decent job on sticking to the character, while also having a moderately viable character build. You should also check out the other D&D character build we did for Subaru Natsuki, as I'm guessing if you were interested in this video, you'd be interested in that one as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. I may not have done a perfect job, but I thought this would be pretty interesting to do. If you enjoy ReZero content, I recommend checking out our other videos, and subscribing to the channel. That'll be it. Thank you.